When the apocalypse hits, where's the safest place to be? The mountains, of course. As one of the biggest farmers in the county, my family's pig farm is nestled in the largest mountain range around. It's surrounded by peaks, bordered by a river, and sparsely populated, the perfect place to ride out the end of the world. In my past life, I was on an Amtrak train to New York City when the zombie outbreak started. Don't ask me why. My husband's company wasn't letting anyone off for the holidays until Christmas Eve, and I had to go meet him. Turns out, I never made it to Christmas. Instead, I ran straight into the first wave of the undead horde and became one of them. Damn corporate greed, it got me killed. Chloe, are you listening? The voice from my phone snapped me out of it. Chloe? What's wrong? Why aren't you talking? The voice on the other end grew more anxious. It was my husband, Leo. But, wasn't I killed on that train? Realization dawned on me. I snatched the phone from my ear and looked at the date. February 2nd, 2050. I was reborn. Reborn a full 2 weeks before the zombie outbreak. There was still time. I did a little jump for joy and quickly replied, I'm fine, honey. I'm okay. All right, then I'll go ahead and book your ticket. February 17th, the G6554 train? My expression hardened. No, Leo, I said, my voice serious. You have to come home. After I explained everything, Leo and I made a plan on the spot. I would stay here and stock up on supplies while he took immediate leave from work to come back. Leo and I were high school sweethearts. He got into NYU, a top-tier university, while I only managed to get into a local community college. But we were friends, and one thing led to another. The genius somehow fell for a goofball like me. He even ignored everyone's advice and dragged me to the courthouse to get married right after graduation. His parents were so mad they didn't speak to him for months. But what was done, and my in-laws were actually pretty decent to me. They never gave me a hard time. I lived in New York for 2 years before moving back home to take care of my parents when their health started failing. I also took over the family pig farm. Back in school, a teacher had talked about sustainable agriculture. Building on my dad's work, I used the pig manure to fertilize the greenhouses next to the farm, which gave us a year-round supply of fresh vegetables. Our pigs weren't raised on commercial feed, but on fermented soy mash. It was cheap, and the meat quality was excellent. Every winter, I'd hire people to make a batch of cured meats and artisanal sausages to sell at major grocery stores. Over a few years, we established our own dedicated sections in several major chains, selling directly to customers. My in-laws owned a supermarket in town, and after I came back, they let me manage that too. All told, our income streams brought in close to $500,000 a year. Add in the 80 or 90,000 Leo managed to save annually, and we were doing pretty well. Our plan was to work hard for a few more years, save up a nest egg, and then move both sets of parents to New York with us. Who knew the zombie apocalypse would hit before we ever got the chance? In my last life, it was game over for me right at the start. I have no idea what happened to any of them. I took stock of our liquid assets. Cash, $185,000. Large investments, $700,000. Accounts receivable from stores, $210,000. Total, $1,095,000. I get paid by the supermarkets on the 5th of every month, which was in 3 days. If I pulled the money from my investments now, I'd lose the interest, but who cares about interest when the world is about to end? Getting the cash to hoard supplies was what mattered. I quickly scheduled a call with my financial advisor to transfer the funds. We knew each other well, so when I told him I was planning to move to New York and just wanted the money liquid in a checking account for now, he readily scheduled an appointment for the next morning. Our families are small, we're both only children, so there are just 6 of us in total. This amount of money would be more than enough. Next, I called Mr. Wallace, a big pig farmer in the neighboring county. I told him I was moving to New York and offered to sell him my 50 sows, over 1,000 piglets, and 500 hogs under 100 pounds at a rock-bottom price. $20,000 for the lot. It was practically a giveaway. He immediately said he'd be over the next day to pick them up. After hanging up, I contacted Mr. Shaw, the biggest pig buyer in our county. I offered to sell him the 1,652 market hogs on my farm all at once. The current price was about $0.85 a pound, but I offered them to him for $0.60. The catch? I wanted cash, no IOUs. I also promised to give him my contracts with the grocery stores for free. And to sweeten the deal, I threw in the several tons of fermented soy mash I had in my warehouse. Our pork sold well, and he'd be getting established sales channels. Mr. Shaw didn't try to haggle. He said he'd spend the next day getting the cash together, and would be over the day after that to pick up the pigs. That night, Leo and I stayed up late making a master list of supplies. We divided it into 5 categories: food, household goods, security, medicine, and energy. For food, we already had wholesale contacts through the family supermarket. I sent out the order lists to our various suppliers. Staples, 50-pound bags, 400 of rice, 200 of flour. Green beans, red beans, soybeans, 50 bags of each. Cooking oils, peanut oil, canola oil, soybean oil, olive oil, 40 cases of each. Seasonings, oyster sauce, soy sauce, dark soy sauce, teriyaki, cooking wine, MSG, sriracha, chili bean paste, vinegar. 1 case of MSG, 20 cases of sriracha were all obsessed, and 5 cases of everything else. Plus 2 cases of assorted hot pot bases. Instant meals, self-heating hot pots, instant rice meals, every flavor of ramen, mac and cheese, rice noodles, etc., 50 cases of each. Drinks, Coke, orange juice, coconut water, Sprite, apple cider, iced tea, milk tea, 10 cases of each. Plus 40 cases of assorted beers. My dad and father-in-law love a beer with dinner, and I wasn't about to take that away from them. Canned goods, canned beef, assorted fruit, tuna, Spam, canned seafood salads, 5 cases of each. Snacks, assorted nuts, beef jerky, chips, crackers, cookies, snack cakes, instant chicken feet, quail eggs, chocolate, assorted candies, 10 cases of each. Milk, 50 cases of assorted milk. Water, 150 cases of various sized bottled water. 500 5-gallon jugs. Water would be contaminated in the apocalypse, so we had to stock up. Since fresh milk has a short shelf life, I also bought 60 containers of senior nutrition powder and 40 containers of adult milk powder. Household goods, 10 cases of every type of paper product, 20 cases of feminine hygiene products, 6 cases of condoms, 6 boxes each of men's and women's underwear, 10 boxes of socks, 2 boxes each of thick slippers and sandals, 2 boxes of power banks, 300 boxes of hand warmers, 2 boxes of toothpaste, 1 box of toothbrushes, 2 boxes of towels and face cloths, 20 battery-powered lamps with 2 boxes of extra batteries, 10 boxes of trash bags, 10 of plastic wrap, a box each of lighters and matches, 20 cases of bug spray, 10 of mosquito coils. I sent the lists out. The orders would start arriving the day after next, on February 5th. It was peak season for holiday orders anyway, so our bulk buying wouldn't attract any attention. I had everything delivered to the usual spot. After all that, I drove with my parents into town to meet my in-laws. I called my mother-in-law ahead of time and said I was bringing my parents over for breakfast. After we finished eating, the 4 of them sat down expectantly, waiting for me to speak. I dialed Leo, who was at home on his day off. I briefly explained my past life and our plan for what was coming. With a supermarket and a pig farm, our family would be a massive target in the apocalypse. To get people off our scent, we had to start telling everyone now that we weren't planning on staying. We were liquidating everything before the holidays and moving to New York. After I finished, the room was silent for a few seconds. The idea of zombies wasn't easy to accept. Leo and I waited quietly. All right then. We'll do whatever Chloe and Leo say, my dad said, taking a drag from his cigarette. He was the first to speak. Your mother and I are old. What's important is you two. We've got $200,000 saved up for our funeral. Your mom will transfer it to you. Buy whatever you need. We have over $400,000, my father-in-law added. With your parents' $200,000, that's over $600,000. It should be enough for supplies. Chloe, how much do you two have on hand? After the payments come in tomorrow and the day after, we'll have about $1.1 million, I said honestly. Okay, here's the plan, my father-in-law continued. We'll sell this house and the supermarket. That should get us another 100,000 or so. We'll pool it with your money, and in a few days, we'll convert it all to gold. When the apocalypse is over, we'll still need to live. Having something valuable on hand will make things easier. Everyone agreed. After the world ended, cash would be as good as toilet paper. Gold would be the only real currency. Leo, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. Chloe, transfer the money to me. I'll bring it back from the city. Our town is too small, converting that much cash to gold would be too conspicuous. I've been thinking, I can drive back from here and bring some things that we can't buy at home. Finally, I reminded everyone to keep this a secret. The most terrifying thing in the apocalypse is other people. You never know what someone will do when they're desperate. Everyone agreed. The meeting was a success. I immediately shared the shopping list Leo and I had made last night in our family group chat. The supermarket orders were placed, but there was still so much more to do. And since we didn't know exactly when the zombie virus would break out, we had to get everything ready within 10 days, just in case. Next came the division of labor. My mom and mother-in-law would hit the wholesale markets to buy all the remaining supplies. My father-in-law was in charge of procuring gas, generators, freezers, and water tanks, as well as selling the house. Leo had a friend in New York who owned a pharmacy, so he took full responsibility for buying medical supplies. Bringing them back from the city wouldn't look suspicious. I was in charge of selling off the pigs and the greenhouse vegetables. My dad would handle upgrading the farm's security. With our tasks assigned and my appointment with the financial advisor approaching, we all set off. My mom and mother-in-law headed straight for the wholesale market, hand in hand. I went to the bank. My father-in-law contacted a real estate agent. And my dad drove back to the farm. By the time I left the bank, our group chat was already buzzing. My mother-in-law had transferred their $205,000 to me. My mom and mother-in-law had already bought 3 cows, 20 sheep, and countless chickens, ducks, and fish. They were on their way to the seafood section. My dad sent pictures of the farm's cold storage and warehouse to the group. Since we were constantly shipping out pigs, our farm was equipped with a large cold storage facility. All the rooms had central air conditioning, powered by solar panels. Plus, the mountain location meant it was naturally cool in the summer and warm in the winter. As long as we didn't face extreme weather, we wouldn't have to worry about electricity. But we had to prepare for extreme weather. Thinking of this, I tagged my father-in-law in the group chat, reminding him to stock up on a few extra generators and plenty of diesel and gasoline. Then I tagged my mom and mother-in-law, telling them to get down jackets and thick comforters for extreme cold and heat. All 3 immediately replied, "Got it." Inspired by my suggestion, my father-in-law posted that he had ordered 2 truckloads of firewood and 2 of smokeless charcoal. He also bought 20 alcohol stoves, 3 sets of gas stoves, 3 sets of propane stoves, 100 cases of solid alcohol fuel, and 100 propane tanks. My dad immediately followed up, saying he was going to build an old-fashioned fireplace in the dining area, which would be useful in case of extreme cold. I thought for a moment and contacted the company that installed our solar panels, ordering 5 more complete sets. That way, if anything broke, we'd have replacements. Back at the farm, I gathered all the employees. There weren't many of us. Our operation was mostly automated, so including me, there were only 10 people. 5 on the farm, 2 in butchering, 2 in the greenhouses, and me, the boss. Everyone assumed I was going to talk about holiday bonuses, and their faces lit up with anticipation. We'd all worked well together over the years. If it wasn't a matter of life and death, I would have loved to keep working with them. As you all know, my husband is in New York, and I've been here taking care of both our families. We're not living together, I began slowly. I've called you all here today to let you know that I've decided to move to New York to join him. The room erupted in murmurs. The expressions on their faces were a mix of regret, concern, and mostly disappointment. "Miss Taylor, do you need people in New York? What if we came with you?" The speaker was Mike, a man with 3 kids in school, struggling to make ends meet on his own. The others quickly chimed in with agreement. The economy was tough, and jobs were hard to come by. I held up a hand for silence. "I'm planning on getting back into the same business in New York, but I haven't got everything set up yet," I continued. Once I do, if you're still willing to work for me, you're more than welcome to come. For now, let's consider this an early start to the holiday break. You'll get your full pay and bonuses as usual. On top of that, everyone will get an extra $5,000 in cash, 2 pigs, 100 pounds of vegetables, 100 pounds of our artisanal sausage, and 100 pounds of cured meat. Go home, get your holiday shopping done early, and spend some quality time with your families. Cheers and applause filled the room. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. You're the best, boss. I held up my hand again. But before you go, I need your help to wrap things up at the farm and the greenhouses. 3 days, I said, holding up 3 fingers. Let's aim to have everyone heading home with their holiday goodies in 3 days. Are you with me? Yes. They shouted in unison. All right, here are the assignments. Mike, Mr. Wallace from the next county, is coming this afternoon to pick up the sows and piglets. You and Lee will help him load them up. Big John, Little John, Ken, and Young Lee. You 4 are responsible for taking all 122 hogs over 250 pounds to the butchery. Get them slaughtered and processed. I've promised the buyer they'll be ready in 2 days. I need all the pigs moved to the butchery today. Mike and Lee, after the pigs are gone, give the farm a thorough cleaning and disinfection. Once you're done, head over to the butchery tomorrow to help the others. After assigning the farm tasks, I turned to the 2 women left in the room, Mrs. Davis and Mrs. Miller. Mrs. Davis, you'll be in charge of vacuum sealing the sausages and cured meats. Set aside the portions for everyone individually. Mrs. Miller and Sean, you're responsible for harvesting everything in the greenhouses. Again, set aside everyone's individual portions. We'll be delivering all these vegetables to the buyer in the next 2 days. Mrs. Davis and Mrs. Miller nodded. Okay, let's get to work, I said, waving them off. After getting the farm work sorted, I went to the rearmost building on the property. The first and second floors were where my parents and I lived. The first basement level was a warehouse, and the second was a cold storage facility. The workers never came to this building. The cold storage had never been used since it was built, but we kept it maintained just in case, ready to be turned on at a moment's notice. Because of the warehouse and cold storage, we had installed a bank vault-grade, bulletproof door for the basement entrance. The walls were also heavily reinforced with steel rebar and concrete, 3 times thicker than normal walls. The warehouse on the first basement level was divided into 8 large rooms, originally for sorting different products. Now it looked like they would be perfect for bedrooms, once we added beds and closets. If things got bad, we could all move down here. Since the cold storage had never been operational, the workers didn't know about the basement. Even my mom, who didn't pay much attention to these things, was unaware. Only my dad and I knew. My dad and I discussed it and decided to install a fireplace on the first basement level as well. We'd store all the supplies in the basement, creating the illusion that the surface level was abandoned. The doors to the upstairs rooms were all high security. The entire farm was enclosed by a 12-foot-high wall topped with barbed wire, broken glass, and an electric fence. We had cameras everywhere with no blind spots. After all, the farm was a profitable business, and we were the only ones for miles. Security had been a top priority from day one. Looking around, our biggest problem was that the basement had no water supply, kitchen, or bathrooms, though we had roughed in the plumbing, thinking we might need a staff member on duty down there. My dad immediately said he could handle the water and kitchen, and have it done in 2 days. As I came up from the basement, Mr. Wallace was arriving. I quickly called for Mike to let his truck in. The farm's main gate was also 12 feet high, 15 feet wide, and 8 inches thick. The 2 doors together weighed over 2 tons, custom made. Just inside was the truck scale. This gate was only for selling pigs and receiving deliveries. We usually used the side gate. Once the truck was in, Mike and Lee expertly set up the loading chute. Mr. Wallace's men on the truck guided the pigs in, while Mike and Lee herded them from the pens into the chute. The pigs, startled by the shouts, had no choice but to move forward. It was 5 p.m. by the time they finished loading. Before he left, Mr. Wallace did a final count and transferred the money to me. Income: $20,000. My dad had already gathered the materials he needed and was planning to start work tonight. The butchery had already processed 20 hogs, the remaining 102 would be done tomorrow. Mrs. Davis had packaged 1,000 pounds of sausage. A quick estimate showed there were still about 1,500 pounds of sausage and 4,000 pounds of cured meat to be packaged. Over in the greenhouses, Mrs. Miller had harvested all the cabbage and Napa cabbage, about 400 pounds of Napa and 250 of regular cabbage. Sean had dug up all the sweet potatoes and radishes, but it was hard to tell the yield yet. I asked Mike and Lee to help Mrs. Davis with the packaging. If they worked hard, they could finish the meat tonight, and tomorrow, after loading the truck, they could all help with the vegetable harvest. My mom and mother-in-law, the main shopping force, kept the group chat updated with their progress. The two of them were on an unprecedented shopping spree. In one afternoon, they had bought 200 pounds of shrimp, 50 pounds of abalone, 50 pounds of lobster, 50 pounds of king crab, and countless other types of seafood. Their reasoning was we can't neglect ourselves. They also bought 10 sets of down jackets for everyone, 10 sets of pajamas for each season for each person, 10 sets of loungewear for each season for each person, 12 extra thick comforters, 12 goose down duvets, 30 sets of sheets, 12 electric blankets, and for the three of us women, 6 sets of our favorite skincare products and 5 boxes of face masks each. To prepare for a potential water shortage, on top of what I'd already bought, they purchased 12 boxes of disposable underwear. They also bought 500 pounds of cat litter, saying it could be used for personal sanitation if we were stuck inside during extreme cold. The two of them were in a buying frenzy, announcing they were heading to the fruit and vegetable wholesale market the next day. Looking at the chat log, I thought for a moment and contacted a friend who sold fitness equipment. I ordered 3 treadmills and 6 spin bikes. We'd need to stay active if we were cooped up. My friend mentioned they had just gotten a new batch of spin bikes that could generate electricity. I immediately upgraded to those. They were more expensive but far more practical. My father-in-law hadn't been idle either. He'd rented a large storage unit on the outskirts of town and 10 large freezers. Everything my mom and mother-in-law bought could be delivered directly there. He also showed the house to 2 potential buyers. Because he was selling at a discount and the location was good, one buyer decided on the spot, putting down a $2,000 deposit. The rest would be paid in full at closing. Meanwhile, Leo had already purchased all the medical supplies. He also ordered 4 drones, 6 high-powered airsoft rifles, and several boxes of steel BBs. He had already dropped his Land Rover Defender off to be modified and armored, expecting it to be ready around the 6th. For now, he had rented a beat-up minivan for hauling things. As soon as his car was ready, he would start driving back and should arrive around the 7th. The sausage and cured meat packaging went on until 9 p.m. My mom didn't come home that night, so my dad and I just grabbed a quick bite. At 10:30 p.m., we had another meeting in our small group chat. First, we tallied the finances. Mom, mother-in-law, meat $13,852, seafood $5,135, household goods $35,262, total $54,249. Father-in-law, 6 silent generators $18,000, diesel $400, gasoline $2,310, firewood $1,340, charcoal $2,850, alcohol stoves $300, alcohol fuel $2,600, gas stoves $360, propane $1,450, warehouse freezer rental $2,000 equals total $33,610. Me. 5 solar panel sets $50,000, treadmills $1,536, power generating spin bikes $1,800, total $53,336. Dad. Various materials $1,500. Worker salaries bonuses $57,600. Income today $20,000. My cash $185,000, $700,000, $20,000, $905,000. Mother-in-law, $451,000. Mom, $205,000. Receivables, $210,000. Total expenses, $200,300. Disposable funds, $1,572,700. Seeing we still had plenty of money, everyone felt optimistic. We chatted for a bit longer before heading to bed. February 4th. 13 days until the outbreak. My dad was up at 8 a.m., already busy in the basement. Today he planned to build the kitchen and lay out the plumbing and electrical. At 9 a.m., Mr. Shaw arrived with 2 large trucks. The trucks parked side by side in the open area outside the pig pens. Mike and Lee methodically started herding the pigs. They didn't finish loading until 3 p.m. All 1,652 hogs and the soy mash were on their way. The total weight was 416,304 pounds. At $0.60 a pound, that came to $249,782.40. Mr. Shaw was a man of his word and transferred me an even $250,000. Income, $250,000. I accepted it without argument and had Lee bring out 2 boxes of cured meat, 2 boxes of sausage, and a bag of potatoes. The holidays are coming up. It's not much, but if you don't mind, take it and give it a try. I know the quality of your family's work. Thank you for the gift, Miss Taylor, Mr. Shaw said, accepting it graciously. Hope we can work together again in the future, I said with a nod. Mr. Shaw had a huge business, and I didn't really expect him to keep the stuff I gave him. But as it turned out, he was so busy before the outbreak that he forgot about it. When the apocalypse hit, that food ended up getting him through the toughest initial period. But that's a story for another time. After the trucks left, Mike and Lee started cleaning and disinfecting the pig pens. By the time they finished and took out the trash, it was dark. The work at the butchery was also done, with the meat stored in the adjacent cold storage facility. The supplies I ordered on the 3rd had been delivered to the supermarket's warehouse. My father-in-law signed for them and sent me the invoices, totaling $120,500. I immediately transferred the money to the various suppliers. At the same time, my father-in-law bought 10 large water storage tanks, 3 rainwater collection systems, and 6 water purification systems for a total of $25,000. My mom and mother-in-law went to the dry goods, nut and seed markets today, spending $10,000. Back at the farm, Mrs. Davis and the others finished harvesting the radishes and sweet potatoes, yielding 700 pounds of radishes and 500 pounds of sweet potatoes. Tomorrow they would harvest the potatoes, and then their work would be done. That evening, I posted the updated finances in the group chat. Income, $250,000. Expenses, $155,500. Disposable funds, $1,667,200. February 5th. 12 days until the outbreak. Today was the day to collect payments from the supermarkets. I had already told the store managers I was moving to New York, so we were settling all accounts up to February 4th. Mr. Shaw's people took over the stalls today. Since there was no disruption to the store's operations, everyone settled their accounts quickly and without issue. The final tally was $15,000 more than I expected. Total collected, $225,000. We now had a total of $1,682,500. I had $1,358,000 on hand, and my mother-in-law had $324,000. After leaving the supermarket, I went straight to the bank and transferred $1.2 million to Leo. From the bank, I drove to the butchery. The crew had already loaded 100 hogs worth of meat onto a truck. The meat from the remaining 22 hogs was brought back to our farm. I rode with the truck driver straight to the storage unit my father-in-law had rented. The movers he'd hired were already waiting to unload the truck. After they finished, I settled up with them. I paid the driver and he left. Trucking fee $50. Once that was done, I drove back to the farm. The vegetables from the greenhouses were all packed in small crates. The meat from the 22 hogs was packed in large bags. Mike handed me the final inventory list. We now had sausage, 2,400 pounds. Cured meat, 4,000 pounds. Napa cabbage, 400 pounds. Cabbage, 250 pounds. Sweet potatoes, 500 pounds. Radishes, 700 pounds. Potatoes, 2,000 pounds. I had promised everyone 100 pounds of vegetables, and I let them choose what they wanted. They all picked potatoes since they store well. For ourselves, I kept back the meat of 4 hogs, 200 pounds of sausage, 200 pounds of cured meat, 50 pounds of cabbage, 50 pounds of sweet potatoes, 50 pounds of radishes, and 100 pounds of potatoes. I had the workers help load the rest onto a truck. After everything was loaded, I transferred everyone's final pay and bonus, averaging over $6,000 per person. Their faces were all beaming. This was almost a year's salary for them. Plus, with all the food we gave them, they'd be set for months. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Happy New Year, and I hope you make a fortune next year. Thanks, boss. Happy New Year. I smiled and waved. Go on, pack your things and head home. Have a wonderful holiday. As they went to their dorms to pack, my dad got in the truck to deliver the last load of supplies to the storage unit. When he got back, everyone was packed and ready. Mike, Ken, Lee, Big John, and Mrs. Miller were all local. I had my dad drive them home in the farm's truck. The others asked if we could give them a ride to the county seat, where they could catch a bus home. They all lived in the next county over, which was only a 4-hour round trip. My dad and I decided to just drive them all the way home and spend the night in town. They were thrilled when we offered. It was past 10 p.m. by the time we got back to town. We chatted for a bit, and then all went to bed. February 6th. 11 days left. Starting today, the major renovations on the farm could begin. Early in the morning, my father-in-law drove the water tanks, generators, and rainwater collectors back to the farm. My dad went to a door and window shop and a furniture store. He ordered 10 heavy-duty titanium alloy security doors, 3 beds, a dining set, and a sofa, spending $18,000. The basement kitchen, plumbing, and electrical were already finished. Once the water systems were installed, we could move the furniture in. After my dad and father-in-law left, I drove to pick up the fitness equipment I'd ordered. After that, I went to a computer store and bought 20 laptops for $10,000. From there, I went to the biggest outdoor supply store in town. I bought 12 sets of everything: pepper spray, tactical batons, stun guns, mace, sleeping bags, binoculars, moisture-proof mats, safety ropes, climbing ropes, windproof gear, mountaineering boots, anti-hypothermia kits, backpacks, Swiss Army knives, and more. It all came to $8,000. As I was leaving, I spotted a stack of high-capacity rechargeable battery packs in a corner. "Excuse me," I asked the owner, "how many of these batteries do you have left?" The owner looked at me like I was Santa Claus. "I've got 20 more sets in stock. If you take them all, I can give you a discount. These are the largest capacity batteries you can buy on the market." That was exactly what I wanted. Perfect. I'll take them all. How much? $40,000 flat. Sold. So I lugged 20 more heavy bricks back to my car. Next, I stopped at a hardware store. Machetes, hammers, axes, wrenches, saws, I bought several of each. Better to have them and not need them. On the way, I passed a bookstore and went on another shopping spree. World classics, popular novels, philosophy, comics, newspapers, magazines. I grabbed one of every book that looked interesting. When the zombies come, we'd be stuck at home with nothing to do but watch shows and read. When I got back to the storage unit, my mom and mother-in-law were already there. They were pickling half the cabbage and radishes. "Mom, you're back so soon?" "Yes. Chloe, come look at this," my mom said excitedly. I peered into a cardboard box and saw a flock of fluffy little chicks scurrying around. "Chicks?" I asked, confused. "You wouldn't know. These are speckled Sussex chickens, the best for laying eggs. Even if we can't go out, we can't skimp on nutrition," my mother-in-law explained. "That's a great idea. We still have some of that fermented soy mash left. We can use it as feed," I nodded. "But chickens make noise." I pulled out my phone, did a quick search, and ordered a batch of soundproofing foam and one-way privacy film for Windows. I paid extra for shipping directly to the storage unit. Just as I finished, a message came from Leo. He had the gold bars and was getting ready to leave. He estimated he'd be home around 3 a.m. I immediately texted him back, telling him to be safe on the road, and that we'd be waiting for him. That evening, my dad and father-in-law drove back from the farm. When Leo arrived, dinner was just being served. The moment he walked in, he pulled me into a tight hug, his eyes a little red. "In the last life, Our family was torn apart. This time, we were going to survive, together. February 7th. 10 days left. My father-in-law and dad continued their work at the farm. The rest of us, me, Leo, my mom, and my mother-in-law, hired a moving company to pack up everything from our house and transport it to the farm. We then contacted the buyer, closed the deal, and transferred the property. That night, we split into pairs and, using 3 cars, made 2 trips to move supplies from the storage unit. February 8th. 9 days left. The basement was now fully furnished. To avoid suspicion, we installed 2 separate electric meters, one for upstairs and one for the basement. Leo upgraded the farm's electric fence to a high-voltage system. My dad applied the privacy film to all the windows, and my father-in-law installed the soundproofing foam. We had only managed to move a corner of the warehouse's contents last night. Today we rented 6 moving trucks. During the day, we loaded them at the storage unit. After midnight, we started moving everything to the farm. We didn't finish unloading until 6 a.m. The once empty pig pens were now stacked to the brim with supplies. Thankfully, the pens were enclosed structures, like individual little houses, so everything was sheltered. February 9th. 8 days left. We were all exhausted from the previous night and slept until 3 p.m. When we woke up, Leo, my dad, my father-in-law, and I went to return the rental trucks. My mom and mother-in-law stayed home to organize the supplies. That evening, we brought a truckload of cement and rebar back to the farm. After dinner, we all gathered to review our finances. Leo had spent all the money he had. I had $88,000 left, and my mother-in-law had $300,000. A total of $388,000 remaining. We didn't know if cash would be useful after the apocalypse, but we couldn't leave ourselves with nothing. So we decided my money would be our final emergency fund. Tomorrow, we would spend my mother-in-law's $300,000 on gold. February 10th. 7 days left. Today was the day our family left for New York. After breakfast, we packed our cars with luggage and filled the trunk with sausage, potatoes, cured meat, and pork, and drove back to our old hometown. We went door to door, giving gifts of food to all our close relatives and friends, telling them we were leaving for New York that afternoon. We had lunch at a cousin's house. Afterwards, our group drove towards the highway. As we got on, we made sure to post a few pictures in the village's group chat, complete with a hopeful caption about our new life. We drove to the next city over, where the chances of running into someone we knew were low. After getting off the highway, we went straight to the largest shopping mall in the city. We split up, pretending not to know each other. I walked into a jewelry store and, without a word, started buying the heaviest gold bracelets and necklaces they had. Within an hour, the $300,000 was gone. We met back at the parking garage. From there, we drove to another mall for dinner and some last-minute fun. We got our favorite milk teas, cakes, and snacks, buying several of each to go. Starting tomorrow, we'd be stuck in our mountain fortress. Tonight was our last hurrah. After eating our fill, we drove back, sneaking onto the farm at 2:30 a.m. Over the next few days, while we still had power and water, we charged every power bank and battery to full. 10 laptops ran simultaneously, downloading TV shows, movies, and variety shows, anything we could get our hands on. During the day, we organized the supplies. At night, the whole family moved into the basement. After several days of hard work, everything was sorted and categorized. With the freezers and warehouses packed to the brim, our family could easily survive down here for 3 years. In their spare time, my dad and father-in-law covered the gaps between each building with corrugated steel roofing. From above, it looked like one solid structure. Not even a drone could see what was happening inside, unless it flew directly into the compound. This meant that even after the outbreak, we could move around freely during the day. On February 15th, videos of people with rabies-like symptoms biting others started appearing online, but they were quickly deleted. The zombies were starting. We sprang into action immediately. Just in case, we set up a roadblock 2 kilometers down the road from the farm, a massive pile of 10 felled trees. It should be enough to stop a wave of zombies. Back at the farm, we quickly sealed both gates shut with cement. The electric fence was powered on to its maximum setting. We started taking shifts monitoring the security cameras. At 10 a.m. on February 17th, the zombie outbreak went global. The internet was overrun. Every platform was flooded with videos of zombies attacking people. Listening to the screams in the videos, a suffocating fear washed over me. 10:10 a.m. In my previous life, this was the exact moment a zombie burst into my train car and killed me with a single bite. It's okay, Chloe. It's all in the past, Leo said, seeing the video on my phone. He pulled me into a tight embrace, comforting me. I nodded. This life would be different. 10:30 a.m. The same emergency broadcast began playing on every channel. Dear citizens, our nation is currently under attack by an unknown virus. Please lock your doors and windows, shelter in place, and await government assistance. Please believe that the government will not abandon any citizen. Until rescue arrives, please do everything you can to survive. The message repeated over and over. Beneath every official post were countless pleas for help. But not a single one received an official response. At noon, a video call request popped up on my phone. It was Sean. Leo just shook his head slightly. I nodded, understanding. I placed the phone on the table and just watched the screen. After 2 rings, he gave up. A moment later, a text message from Sean came through. I didn't open it right away. I waited half an hour before reading it. It said, Miss Taylor, how are you guys doing in New York? Thanks for the holiday bonus. Because of that food, my family should be able to hold out for a while. Thank you. If he just wanted to say thanks, why try to video call? I scoffed internally. I'm not a saint, but a zombie apocalypse is a different beast. I gave everyone a generous severance package as a plausible excuse to help them out. I never thought it would turn me into a target. We started getting messages from everyone, mostly expressing concern. Mike and Little John also messaged me. They said they were glad they had listened to me and stocked up for a big holiday celebration. They thanked me for saving their families. Leo pulled out the walkie-talkies he'd prepared and gave one to each of us. From that day on, we'd work in 2 shifts, me and Leo and my dad and father-in-law. My mom and mother-in-law were in charge of our daily life. To lighten the heavy atmosphere, my mom and mother-in-law decided to make a lavish seafood feast for lunch. 2 king crabs, 6 lobsters, a big bowl of abalone, and a huge bowl of shrimp. The delicious aroma of the meal soon filled the air, and our tense nerves began to relax. As we relaxed, our appetites returned, and we all dug in. To hell with whatever monsters were out there. We'd face whatever came our way. With a fortress like this, easily defensible and hard to attack, who was there to be afraid of? That night, Leo and I were on watch. I sat in the surveillance room while Leo sat by the basement entrance. The silence outside was absolute. In the early hours of the morning, after a bowl of instant ramen, we quietly launched a drone. The drone rose slowly, gradually revealing the situation in the village below. Every house was dark. There were no zombies roaming the village streets, which meant they hadn't reached here yet. The village was nestled against the mountains, and not many people lived here year-round. It was mostly the elderly and children. The young people had mostly left for work in the cities. Those who could afford it had moved to the county seat for their kids' schooling. To better monitor the situation at the foot of the mountain, Leo maneuvered the drone to land on the roof of an abandoned shed halfway up the slope. It was inconspicuous, you wouldn't notice it even in broad daylight. At 4 a.m., a Land Rover came speeding down the road into the village. It pulled up to a courtyard, and a couple with 2 young children got out. After getting inside, the couple quickly shut the courtyard gate. They frantically unloaded supplies from the back of the car, making several trips before shutting themselves inside the house. We didn't see them open the door again. They must have escaped from the city. At 5 a.m., my dad and father-in-law came to relieve us. Leo and I went to bed. I woke up at noon. Chloe, Leo, you're awake. Come and eat. Seeing us up, my mother-in-law immediately brought out lunch. Celery beef, braised pork ribs, sweet and sour cabbage, fish with pickled greens, and stir-fried potatoes. They were all my and Leo's favorite dishes. Dad, any activity this morning? Leo asked as he ate. 3 more families have returned to the village below, probably from the city, my father-in-law said. Were any zombies following them? Not so far. Oh, and after those 3 families got back, A few young men from the village came out and blocked the only road into town with a barricade. They also went door to door to get a head count, my dad added. As long as no zombies appeared in the village, our position up here would remain hidden for now. On the second day of the outbreak, the number of distress calls online decreased. Some people who had calmed down started posting self-rescue tips. I read through all the posts and summarized the key points. Zombies were sensitive to sound, smell, and light. They were slow-moving but extremely aggressive and felt no pain. They wouldn't go down unless you destroyed the brain. The virus spread through blood, and the transmission was incredibly fast. A scratch or a bite would cause you to turn within 10 minutes. There were also many videos of military units fighting zombies, but the battles looked horrific. Most videos just showed streets and neighborhoods swarming with aimlessly wandering zombies. All the living were like birds in a cage, with no idea what the next moment would bring. Leo took out the airsoft rifles he'd brought back and spent his time tinkering with them in his room, probably modifying them. He was an engineering major in college and was great with his hands, unlike me with my literature degree. My mom and mother-in-law, meanwhile, were dedicated to honing their culinary skills. They watched cooking shows constantly, and while the internet was still up, they downloaded every recipe video they could find. I scrolled endlessly through videos on every platform, looking for the latest news. On the 5th day of the outbreak, the internet went down. The shows and movies we'd downloaded became our lifeline. My mom and mother-in-law had been cooking up a storm, and all of us had started to put on some weight. This couldn't continue. The fitness plan was officially launched. Treadmills and spin bikes were put to use. Everyone had to exercise for at least an hour a day. We couldn't let ourselves get so out of shape that we couldn't even run if zombies did manage to break in. The 6th day of the outbreak was Christmas Day. That day, the whole family worked together to prepare a magnificent dinner. My dad brought out a bottle of vintage Matai he'd been saving for years. My mother-in-law opened a bottle of red wine. I set up some mood lighting I'd bought, and we played last year's New Year's Eve broadcast on the laptop. Merry Christmas! We all raised our glasses. The road ahead might be difficult, but there was still light. To my dear family, Merry Christmas! That night, we forgot the fear of the apocalypse and just pretended it was a normal holiday, like any other year. 5 days later, the power went out in the valley below. But not for us. We had been running on solar power from the start, completely self-sufficient. As long as we didn't have a long stretch of rainy or snowy weather, our power would last until the zombies were gone. However, to avoid attracting attention, we shut off the main breaker for the upstairs buildings. At night, our compound was as dark as the world outside. 10 days later, in the middle of the night, we heard a violent crash from down the mountain. Leo and I were glued to the monitors. A car had crashed into the village barricade. The barricade was breached, and the car was wrecked. A man and a woman scrambled out of the car and ran into the village, frantically pounding on doors, begging for help. 5 or 6 zombies had been following the car. With the barricade broken, they easily entered the village. Drawn by the sound, they headed straight for the courtyard where the couple was. Seeing that no one would help them, the couple started kicking the door in a frenzy, even smearing their own blood on it. Leo and I exchanged a look. This was human nature. The couple quickly became part of the horde. But the zombies didn't stop. Agitated by the blood, they slammed against the door of that house until the entire frame gave way. Soon, the screams of the family inside and the gurgling sounds of the zombies filled the night air. Several other houses quickly fell. The next morning, when my dad and father-in-law took over the watch, there were already 20 to 30 zombies roaming the village. With zombies now at the foot of the mountain, our sanctuary was no longer completely safe. From that day on, we went on high alert. We secretly flew another drone down and landed it on the village's cell tower. 5 months passed like this. Most of the village had fallen. Zombies clogged the roads, wandering aimlessly like headless flies. But because the zombies blocked the roads, no one dared to venture out. The two sides maintained a strange, twisted balance. One day at lunch, a burst of gunfire echoed from the valley. We immediately gathered at the monitors. 2 military-style Humvees were parked at the village entrance, and 7 or 8 armed soldiers were clearing out the zombies. We were ecstatic. The rescue team was here. The man in the lead held a megaphone. Villagers of High Blossom, the zombies have been cleared. We are a support team sent by the government to escort you to the southern safe zone. You can gather your supplies and leave with us. Soon villagers started emerging, carrying bags and luggage. With a few leading the way, the remaining survivors all came out. Before long, a sparse group of 12 or 13 people had gathered in the square. Some carried large bundles, others had only a small backpack. After half a year, many families had run out of food. We watched the small group, feeling a pang of sorrow. My mom and mother-in-law were already excitedly getting ready to pack. Leo and my father-in-law also looked relieved, but my dad and I grew more and more solemn. At first, we were happy too. We would have been if we hadn't seen Sean. The spot where everyone gathered after the zombies were cleared was directly in the drone's line of sight. The skinny young man standing next to the team leader was Sean, the same person who had tried to video call me on the first day. A chill ran down my spine. Sure enough, another round of gunshots soon rang out from below. The survivors' food was all stolen. Those who resisted were shot in the head. Maybe it was my imagination, but Sean seemed to glance in the direction of our farm, a twisted smile on his face. The villagers below became slaves to this group. The men were forced into hard labor, the women used to satisfy their captors' lust. Anyone who disobeyed was either beaten into submission or killed. In just half a day, the valley was filled with cries of anguish. We pulled out all our weapons and went on full combat alert. The inevitable was coming. The next night, 2 Humvees quietly left High Blossom Village. We would have been relieved if they hadn't driven straight up the mountain towards us. Remembering the smile on Sean's face, my heart leaped into my throat. Leo silently gripped the modified airsoft rifle in his hands. I went to wake up my dad and father-in-law. Soon everyone was armed. Once we were ready, Leo, my dad, my father-in-law, and I took a large bag of supplies up to the 3rd floor. My mom stayed to watch the monitors, while my mother-in-law guarded the basement door. We all communicated via walkie-talkies. Another drone was positioned quietly on the roof of one of the pig pens, a recording device attached. An hour later, 5 figures appeared on the road, each carrying a rifle and a military backpack. It looked like our roadblock had stopped their vehicles. Leading the group were Sean and a burly, bearded man, who was clearly their leader. It was too dark to see their expressions. As they got closer, we could faintly hear snippets of conversation. Pig farm. Ahead of time, supplies. It was obvious. Sean was selling us out to score points. That ungrateful snake, my dad muttered. The group reached the perimeter wall. We saw Sean pull something from his pocket, but it was immediately snatched by another tall, thin man. The thin man jogged towards the side gate. He had a key to the side gate made. My dad cursed, furious. A cold fear washed over me. The side gate was usually locked, with the only key kept in the duty office, to be returned after use. The fact that Sean had a key meant he had secretly copied it long ago, not just because of the sudden holiday. The kid's cunning was terrifying. Arg! A scream came from below the wall. The man trying to open the lock convulsed, slumped against the gate, and then went still. The remaining men quickly raised their rifles, scanning their surroundings. Boss, I told you. The Taylors have to be here. They're rich, they must have tons of supplies. Sean said excitedly. The bearded man kicked Sean aside and fired a shot into the air. Listen up in there. Let us in peacefully, and we might let you live. Otherwise, you're gonna regret it. Bang. Leo fired a shot in return, without a word. The 4 men outside took a step back. The bearded man pressed his gun to Sean's forehead. You said they were just ordinary business people. Sean's legs gave out, and he dropped to his knees. I don't know. Maybe it's just a bluff. Fall back, the bearded man said, glancing at the farm before leading his men away. But this was far from over. The next morning, 5 vehicles were parked at our main gate. The lead vehicle accelerated, ramming full speed into the side gate. The front of the truck crumpled, but the gate didn't budge. Thank God we had sealed it with cement. Otherwise, that impact would have brought it down. 7 burly men got out, all armed with rifles. The leader raised a pair of binoculars and scanned the inside of our compound. A moment later, They went back to their vehicles and returned with several large, insulated bolt cutters. They were going to cut the electric fence. This is bad, we thought. We couldn't let them succeed. I ran back down to the basement, filled a black plastic bag with water, and brought it back upstairs. My dad quickly attached it to one of our remaining drones. I flew it directly over the men cutting the fence. Leo took a clean shot. With a loud zap, the two men cutting the wire collapsed against the wall. The men outside immediately opened fire. I tried to pull the drone back, but it was too late. The drone exploded in a shower of plastic and fell to the ground. Having lost two of their own, the men outside were furious. They unleashed a hail of bullets at the building. The windows shattered into a spiderweb of cracks. We ducked into an inner room for cover. After a moment, we heard engines start. They were leaving. We all let out a collective sigh of relief. There were still 5 of them left. We had no idea when the next, more vicious attack would come. In the middle of the night, my dad woke me and Leo. I looked at the monitors and saw a massive group of people heading towards the farm. The surviving villagers were all coming up the mountain. They were carrying ladders, each wrapped in some kind of insulating material. Leo quickly went to the storage room and dragged out a large cardboard box filled with glass bottles, his creations from the past few months. We all helped carry it upstairs. Several windows were already completely shattered from the daytime firefight. For villagers were being forced to cut the electric fence with insulated shears. During a lull in their work, Leo lit the wick on one of the glass bottles and hurled it out the window. It landed in the middle of the crowd. Boom! It exploded with a sharp crack. Glass shards tore into flesh, creating bloody holes. Arg! A chorus of screams erupted. One man collapsed to the ground, unable to get back up. We all gave Leo an unconscious thumbs up. Turns out, knowledge doesn't just change your fate, it saves your life. Our spirits soared. We all grabbed bottles and unleashed a furious barrage on the crowd below. 10 minutes later, the ground was littered with moaning bodies and a few more who wouldn't be getting up. The bearded leader kicked one of his fallen men and furiously sprayed our window with bullets. We quickly ducked into the next room. The glass bottle attack had taken out 2 of them. Now their group was down to just 3 armed men. Unfortunately, that bastard Sean was still unharmed. The 3 of them were now hiding behind their vehicles, plotting something. Leo went to his workshop and tinkered for a bit. When he came back, his airsoft rifle had a small launcher tube attached to it. He pulled out a special white tube, lit it, and placed it in the launcher. Whoosh! It shot out, landing between the front wheels of one of the Humvees. A series of firecracker-like pops followed, and the white tube burst, spreading flames everywhere. The Humvee started to catch fire in multiple places. Leo fired several more, and soon both vehicles were burning. The 3 men scrambled out. We seized the opportunity and threw more glass bottles. Sean and another large man were hit by shrapnel and fell to the ground. The bearded leader just kept firing wildly at our window. We quickly moved to another room. Suddenly, there was a massive explosion from outside. The gunfire stopped. The 4 of us looked at each other. Then my mom's excited voice crackled over the walkie-talkie. It's over. The airsoft rifle I was gripping so tightly suddenly felt light in my hands. There were tears in all our eyes. It was finally over. After repeatedly confirming there was no more movement, we set up 2 long ladders, shut off the high-voltage fence, and climbed over the wall. The 2 vehicles were mangled beyond recognition. The bearded leader lay on the ground, his body charred, likely killed in the vehicle explosion. Corpses were scattered everywhere. My mom told us that when we started throwing the bottles, many of the villagers had taken the chance to run. Others who were injured had hidden nearby and limped away after the explosion. Leo and my dad went over the wall to repair the electric fence, while my father-in-law and I stood guard on the wall with our rifles. It was noon before we finished and returned to the basement. Our fortress was safe, just as we had built it. The future was still full of hope. The end.